This farmer never imagined it would turn out like this. All he did was grow crops, yet somehow he ended up marrying a vampire. But that was only the beginning of his nightmare. As his harvest kept getting more and more ridiculous, more and more girls started showing up, sometimes 7 or 8 at a time. It pushed Jack completely to his limit. Jack used to be just an ordinary office worker, but because of a mistake made by a god, his reincarnation went wrong during the transfer, and he was dropped straight into the most dangerous place in another world, the Forest of Death. But Jack had no idea how terrifying this place really was. There was only one thing on his mind: farming. So he activated his talent skill. The next second, a hoe appeared out of nowhere in his hand. Soon Jack cleared out a small patch of land, but before planting anything, he needed water. So he began exploring the surrounding area. Jack raised his ears and listened carefully, but all he could hear was the rustling of leaves. Right now, though, his biggest priority was finding somewhere to survive the night. Soon he spotted a towering giant tree. It was big enough to serve as a landmark for his base, but since there was no river nearby, Jack had no choice but to dig underground. After a while, he managed to dig out a small spring. That made him breathe a sigh of relief. Next came building a shelter. He summoned an axe and started chopping trees, but Jack never expected this. With one swing of the axe, the wood split open like paper. That's when he realized the axe wasn't an ordinary tool. Jack then began processing the wood. He cut the branches into logs first, then stripped the bark and continued shaping them. Before long, he had a pile of wooden planks. He planned to build a cabin using what he learned from building games he used to play. But Jack suddenly realized a serious problem. He didn't have the tools needed to build a house. As the sky grew darker and darker, Jack knew he had to find a shelter immediately. So he dug a hole into the trunk of the giant tree. The tree hollow became his temporary shelter. Looking up at the 2 moons in the sky, Jack finally realized something. He was truly no longer in his original world. Early the next morning, Jack used a magnifying glass to start a fire. Then he continued expanding the farmland. He plowed every piece of land around him that could be farmed. Before long, his stomach began to growl. Just as he was wondering what to eat, a rabbit suddenly jumped out. Instinctively, Jack swung his hoe. The next second, the rabbit turned into a pile of rabbit meat, but the meat didn't taste very good. After eating, Jack ran into another problem. He needed a toilet. So Jack started building one. First, he made a cylindrical toilet seat. Then he dug a drainage ditch. But when he sat down, he realized something. It felt way too exposed. So Jack kept modifying it over and over. In the end, he created a toilet that was both comfortable and secure. Next, Jack finally began his real farming life. He started thinking about what crops to grow. Potatoes and onions were good choices since they store well, but tomatoes and cucumbers sounded good too. Then he realized another problem. He didn't have any seeds at all. By the time he figured that out, night had already fallen again. So Jack had to return to his base to sleep. Then something miraculous happened. Seedlings suddenly sprouted from the soil by themselves. Jack guessed it must be the power of the universal farming tool. It could grow any kind of crop. To protect the farmland from monsters, Jack built a fence around the field, and he dug a trench outside the fence. It became the first line of defense against magical beasts. A few days later, the base finally began to take shape. During that time, he barely survived on rabbit meat. Meanwhile, the seedlings kept growing day by day. A few more days passed. Jack finally finished building his cabin. Without any adhesive, he relied on joints and grooves to hold the wood